Hi, everybody. I'm Joe Casabona. I'll be talking about Gutenberg today. I like to start with a story. So how many of you saw the Solo commercial, the trailer, last night? For the movie, the Star Wars movie, at the Super Bowl? There we go. All right, cool. Has anybody not seen it and doesn't want it spoiled at all? All right, cool. No hands. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So, what's that? Oh. No, yeah. So, if you might have noticed, if you're like me and watched it a lot of times, and then the breakdown of the video, frame by frame, a lot of times on YouTube, that the control panel in the Millennium Falcon is different. If you're a big Star Wars fan, you'll know that Han made a lot of modifications after he won the Millennium Falcon from Lando in that epic Sabacc game. So I feel like Gutenberg is a lot like that. That's my feeble attempt at a story. Gutenberg is like the new control panel in the Millennium Falcon. Much like the Millennium Falcon, WordPress is kind of old. It's a little clunky. It needs a little bit of an upgrade, but it does really well in most cases. It can still escape the empire. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Gutenberg today. I don't have any slides or a demo or anything like that, but there are some good online resources I will tell you about at the end of the talk. So first, what is Gutenberg? Gutenberg is the new WordPress editor, to put it as simply as possible, right? So people keep referring to it as Gutenberg. When WordPress 5.0 comes out, it's going to be just WordPress. It's going to be how we update posts and pages and create posts and pages. The main difference is when you go into the WordPress editor right now and create a new post or page, you just see a big text box essentially, and you can format text using the buttons up top, but that's really all you can do. With Gutenberg, or the new WordPress editor, it switches to a block-based layout. And what that means is that each piece of content that you add in the new editor is its own kind of discrete block. So I can add a text block. I can add an image block. I can add a YouTube block. And these blocks come together to form rich page layouts, is the language that the WordPress Foundation is using. So you can kind of think of it like Legos, or Lego, right? My friend would get really mad if I said Legos. So you can think of it as Lego. You have all of these blocks, you put them together, and you make something that's very nice looking. It's targeted for 5.0, which is supposed to come out in April. That's the word on the street. That's what Matt Mullenweg said at WordCamp US. The team is working very hard to hit that deadline. They have pretty regular updates, so which makes a course on it very hard to keep updated, which is what I have, so I have to be pretty vigilant about it. But it's nice to see it kind of evolve week after week. So I won't dive too much into blocks, but again, there are blocks for different types of content. One of the things that I really like about the blocks is if you've used WordPress, if you've pasted a YouTube video right into the text editor, you'll know that the YouTube video automatically gets embedded. What you might not know is that there's a dozen or so, couple dozen different services that also support those embeds. So it's not just YouTube and Vimeo, it's like Twitter and College Humor or Funny or Die, one of those. It was weird to see that on the list, but it's there. With Gutenberg, there's actually an embed tab, and it has blocks for each of those different embeds. So you actually have a complete list now of what you can embed in WordPress, which is really nice. The blocks are also reusable, so you can essentially make a block and say, hey, this is text that I'm going to use on a bunch of different pages, and you can say, make this a reusable block, and then you can just drop that block into other pages. Edit it once, it gets edited everywhere. So those are a couple of really nice things about blocks. It should make editing a lot of content easier in the long term. And you can also kind of paste content and things like that, and it'll create different blocks. So it's really nifty. I would encourage you to kind of check it out and try it out if you have not played with Gutenberg yet. So there's a question that comes up about blocks and what Gutenberg can and can't do. And basically what Gutenberg does is it replaces the content template tag. So if you are familiar with that, it's basically just replacing whatever you put into the editor now. So it can't do things like widgets. It's not going to touch the customizer at all. It's just allowing you to make richer content within the posts, pages, and custom post types you have. At this point, they're still kind of working like meta fields into it. So if you use like ACF or WooCommerce, they're still working that support into Gutenberg, into the new editor. So that's yet to be seen, but at present, it's just the content. So again, what it can't do is do widget layouts or anything within the customizer. You're not getting like a rich content layout in the customizer. It's also not a page builder. A lot of people think that this is going to kill things like Beaver Builder and Divi, but it's not that powerful yet, at least at 5.0. So what it can do is allow you to just kind of make discrete sections on your page. You can't do columns yet, but I think they're working on that. Yeah, right, that's going to roll out for 5.0. So you'll be able to do content, columns and nested blocks, but you can't get these big, robust pages that you can do with something like Beaver Builder. So that is what it can and can't do. If you're interested in developing, I think that's the next note I have. Yeah, so development. Real quick, if you make WordPress themes, you probably work primarily in PHP. 2 years ago now, Mullenweg said to learn JavaScript deeply. That is really important now if you want to make blocks, because it is React on the front end. I think it's still PHP on the back end. There's like a whole new block API that you can use to create new blocks and do things like convert your shortcodes to blocks and things like that. So if you want to learn Gutenberg development, you're going to have to become familiar with JavaScript and React. Now, luckily, there's a really great course by Zach Gordon about Gutenberg development, and I'll mention that again at the end, because we have like a discount for everybody for our courses. And let's see, the last note I have, how am I doing on time? Doing okay? All right. The last note I have is about the future, right? So again, people are talking about what is Gutenberg now, what's it going to be. I said that it can't modify the customizer, or it's not integrated into the customizer. I think that's probably where we're going. So right now, version 1.0 of the new WordPress editor, or Gutenberg, is just the content on a page. I think eventually we're going to see something a lot more akin to what you see on Squarespace or Wix, where you will have this big front-end editing experience. Gutenberg and the customizer will probably come together in a brand new editing experience for WordPress further down the line. So I think that's the ultimate goal, and we're kind of doing it, or they are kind of, I'm not doing anything. They are kind of doing it incrementally. So again, there's like, I mean, I'm sure the panel of experts here will address kind of like, will WordPress be forked and things like that. I don't think it would behoove anybody who wants to continue using WordPress to fork WordPress, but I don't want to spoil anybody's answer. So, so that's just kind of a quick rundown of Gutenberg. If you have any questions, we have a bunch of cool people here that are going to answer them. But are there any big things that you were curious in, like the overview, anything I missed? Yes?
Just right now, is it still not recommended to build it into a live site?
Man, what a phenomenal question. So if you want to use Gutenberg today, it's available via a plugin. And the question was, is it still not recommended to use in production? It is not recommended to use in production. I would not recommend using it in production until it's in 5.0 probably. But right now it's changing like really quickly. Like I have like a user course, it came out, and a week later like the interface changed. So my course is going to get updated like next week. But yeah, so that's a great question. There is a Gutenberg plugin. Definitely don't use that on production. What I would recommend doing is make a copy of your site, spin it up on a staging server or something like that, or ask somebody, your developer, to do it, and install Gutenberg there and see how it affects your content. Take a backup, obviously. Not so I don't say obviously. Take a backup, definitely. And then just see how it affects your content and how it affects the overall way you use your site. That's the best way to prepare for it now. When 5.0 drops, there's also a plugin called the Classic Editor. So if you decide this is terrible, or like the thing that I use the most breaks right now, you can use the Classic Editor. It will turn off the new editor, and it'll go back to just like the old way of doing things. I don't recommend that you like use that long term, but like on launch day, if like you rely on WooCommerce and WooCommerce stops working for some reason, then definitely that's a way around it. So, cool. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Yes.
Does Gutenberg utilize the DOM object model like current era does?
That's a.
Its own new beast.
Well, it uses HTML. Well, at the base, everything is basically HTML. Anything can be converted to an HTML block. So it doesn't do anything fundamentally different to your markup, if that's what you're asking.
So it uses HTML for components, and it
Yeah.
also still saves everything in one post content
Yeah.
database. So it's not like a custom structure in the database either.
The tiny MCE editor that WordPress uses actually relies on the DOM object model. So if you have different browsers, you can get different behavior.
Yeah. So.
You can actually get in there and modify the editor if you want with JavaScript. It sounds like this might be completely different.
Yeah, so if you want to like modify blocks or anything like that, yeah, you'd have to spin up a new block using the block API. There are two blocks that use TinyMCE, the text block and the classic editor block, which is just a classic editor with the full like kitchen sink TinyMCE version. But yeah, so if you want to make modifications to the editor experience, you'll have to use the block API. So, yes.
Has there been any feedback yet from users using the plugin to see if anything's broken? Like, is there a log out there? Because my concern is we have visual improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid what might happen.
Yeah, that's the one that's like mostly shortcode driven?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the hard part is that it's essentially up to the plugin developers of each plugin to make sure their stuff works with the latest version of WordPress. I suspect, and again, we've got plugin developers here that can answer better than me, but I suspect a lot of plugin developers are waiting at least until a stable beta or a release candidate before doing anything, because again, it's changing so rapidly right now. As far as shortcodes go, they should work exactly the same as they do now within Gutenberg, with the added advantage that if the shortcode developer taps into the block API, the shortcode will render right within the editor. So you're not just looking at a shortcode, you're looking at the result of the shortcode before you hit publish. So, cool. All right, so I think I will turn it over to the panel now. If you are interested in learning how to use Gutenberg or Gutenberg development, my friend Zach Gordon and I are offering 50% off our courses for anybody who's attended the meetup. It's at gutenberg.courses/Philly-Burbs-Meetup, which is a terrible URL. I was going to put it on the screen, so if we have like a dry erase marker, I'll write it on the board maybe. But it's I'll send it around too. Yeah. So I'll send it to Liam, who knows the proper channels. But gutenberg.courses/Philly-Burbs-Meetup. So cool. Thanks everybody.